Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rockstar direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jennie will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger, helping you whip your business into shape. And today I am super excited because I have the CEO of a company that is just 8 years old. So I am super excited to be able to introduce you to the CEO and to this company. So Austin Collins is a visionary 28-year-old entrepreneur and the CEO of Strands, dedicated to revolutionizing personal and pet health through accessible wellness insights. A former student athlete at Columbus State University, Austin leveraged his understanding of health and performance to create Strands. The company offers functional health assessments for both people and pets, blending Austin's expertise in social media marketing, e-commerce, energy medicine, and customer management to foster a holistic approach to wellness. His leadership extends to educating individuals and businesses on optimizing health, emphasizing a proactive and inclusive approach to wellness for all family members, including their pets. This commitment underscores Austin's belief in the transformative power of personalized health insights and his influence as a dynamic force in the wellness industry. Welcome to the show, Austin. I'm so glad to have you here.
What an intro. Thank you very much. Excited to be here today.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I had so much fun checking out your website before you were on because I had never heard of the company before. And I was like, okay, I need to know more about this. And it was really fascinating to see what you guys have to offer. And I'm going to leave it at that for now, because before we dig into what it is that you offer, how did you get started? Or did you found Strands, or are you one of the founders, or what's the story? How did it get started?
Yeah, so I am one of the founders of Strands. There are three original founders. I started this actually in my senior year of college when I was still playing collegiate baseball at Columbus State University. And realistically, I was in college trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I got out of college. And I was kind of in the mindset of I didn't really want to work for anybody, and was trying to figure out what industries would still be relevant, years down the road. And healthcare was one of those that was a growing industry, one that had, obviously longevity to it. And for me, in my personal life, I had some experiences that had kind of seen different gaps in the medical system or the pharmaceutical system that I thought maybe, I could explore, and didn't necessarily want to be a doctor, didn't want to, go the route of nursing and that whole type of thing. So I actually went to school as a marine biologist, really struggled with understanding some of my professors. So I failed my first actually semester doing that, and I rotated to business marketing. And that was interesting. And I just really knew at some point I was either going to be selling myself or selling a product or a service that I was passionate about. And through that, I ended up rotating into trying to perfect my body on and off the field, and started learning more about personal nutrition and health and wellness. And that kind of put me on my spiral, and eventually came across some technology in the European healthcare system, and started kind of comparing it to the US healthcare system, and saw that as a need that I could bring over something that's been used for 80 plus years somewhere else, and wasn't really modernized in the culture here. And I've brought it to scale. So that's been, really my lean in.
Oh, that is super. And I know that, what I noticed, and because I also have a science background, I used to be a middle school science teacher back in the day, once upon a time. I noticed when I went to the website, of course, the business is Strands, and the logo has what looks like a DNA helix. So how did the name Strands come about? Tell me about that.
Yeah, and what's crazy is there's actually no DNA involved really in our testing from a measurement stance. So we're not actually analyzing the DNA structure. We're a frequency-based technology company. So we actually are comparing frequency exposures and rates, kind of like, I don't know, car radio. You can kind of dial into certain stations. We
Yeah.
do the same thing for different items that we test for, and it tells us how responsive the body is if an exposure was to occur to that. But the logo itself, at the time of our creation, 23andMe was a very trending company at that time for positive or negative reasons. So we're trying to go for brand recognition and competition and just trying to put us in that industry. The at-home testing care market at that time was very new. In pre-COVID, it was very uncommon for people to do at-home kind of testing. People were going
Yeah.
to doctors' offices, and once when they had to schedule kind of all these visits for their vets, or they had to do this doctor on demand type thing, it became a little bit more normalized to look remotely. And were already 4 years into the company before COVID, so we had
Right.
kind of already set our foundation, and I kind of was a visionary, and I knew that this was going to be a thing and a reoccurring cycle moving forward. And we might see a cycle here pretty soon again.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I kind of, part of me wants to go dig that rabbit hole right now.
Sorry.
No, that's
Cliffhanger.
okay. No, that's okay. No, this is really interesting because my assumption then, based on the name of the company and the logo, was that this is DNA testing. And you're saying that this is actually testing frequencies. So, how is it that people are doing these at home tests now with your company?
Yeah, so instead of a blood collection, it's a hair sample collection.
Oh,
So most people are, very common with forensics and understanding that there's a history and a tracking of certain kind of measurements and how the body's responded over time. So people are actually able to submit samples of their hair, whether it's head hair, body hair, leg hair, arm hair, or for their pets. In pets, it's actually very traumatic to take them to a vet and, get them on a table and, inject them with these needles for these micro exposures. So this is where the holistic aspect of it comes into play. And, as soon as you remove that blood from the body, I mean, it already oxygenates, and it's very difficult sometimes to, especially from an at-home testing stance, make sure that the quality and control remains throughout that testing process by the time it actually reaches the lab. And same thing for saliva. As soon as swab is taken out of the mouth, then, it starts to deteriorate. The hair sample is, good for a while.
yeah, I was going to say that's pretty consistent. So now, being the purple haired person that I am, my curiosity is, can you test color treated hair?
Yeah, absolutely. The color stays on the outside, so the internal structure of the hair and the composition isn't damaged.
Okay. And so, what are some of the things that you're testing for then with all of this? Why is it that somebody would want to get one of these tests either for themselves or their pet?
Yeah, so most people, let's see, if you think of maybe a food issue or an environmental issue, the common hot word is like allergy. Like most people go, oh, I must be allergic to something in the food. Well, the actual study is 3 to 4% of people have a true allergic reaction, whether it's a peanut, shellfish, chicken-based anaphylactic shock type response. Most people aren't having their vomit, throat closing, face swelling. So,
Yeah.
what is the other 97% of people experiencing? That term is called an intolerance. And an intolerance is a subtle imbalance, usually chemical. This is usually a chemical exposure inside the gut microbiome where there's this imbalance that, most of the time we're putting food in our mouths versus water. So, the body's having to instead chemically respond to water, to all these different foods that we're having. And if the microbiome, isn't necessarily at a stable present level of vitality, you end up getting these things called symptoms that present. So people have, let's say, an upset stomach, you have skin irritation, you have maybe redness of the skin, a flushed face, water retention, bloating, joint pain, just general inflammation in the body. That's a very subtle chemical imbalance that if we become more conscious of the foods that we're putting into our mouths, the environment that we're exposing ourselves to, we can make those shifts dietary and lifestyle wise. So this type of test, we test hundreds of different food items, hundreds of different environmental items, and allow people to become more conscious of how they're interacting in a day-to-day life, with their current dietary habits and, lifestyle patterns.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know because I know there's probably a lot of people, and especially, you already mentioned during COVID, people have become much more health conscious. People either came out of COVID healthier or much less healthier than they were beforehand. And so being able to take a look at these things seems like it's a pretty good thing for people to be able to do, and especially to be able to do at home. So
Yeah, can I give an example real quick? Like my
yes.
my other business partner, she's actually intolerant to 4 different types of lettuces. So imagine consuming salads thinking that they're healthy for you, but your body is actually having a negative reaction and it's creating this unnecessary water bloat inside her stomach and actually making her have migraines because she's kind of consuming something that's really not good for her at that time. So there's these subtle adjustments. Let's say as a athlete, for me, I was meal prepping my week, but I was maybe intolerant to the protein source that I was consuming. Well, therefore, my body wasn't getting the nutrients that it needed, and I was still becoming
Mm.
necessarily deficient in key vitamins and minerals I needed. So, unlocking these insights on how your body's actually what it's asking for. I mean, we're all unique. We all have different patterns and definitely dietary intakes that are required, but most doctors definitely prescribe on necessarily a generalized term, and they don't take the time to get to know the individual. So realistically, society and healthcare is shifting into individualized health because we are all individualized beings, and I think there's a lot of limited resources out there for people to really fine tune their own personal diet.
Yeah, I definitely can see that happening. I know that there are other companies that are also starting to talk about this kind of thing. So you are not alone in that field, which I think is just, third party validation in that kind of thing. So, but I brought you on as part of my six-figure success series. So what I'd like to talk to you about is, what did the journey from launching your business, to your first six figures, what did that journey look like? What were some of the obstacles you had to overcome? And what are some of the things that you are really glad that you did during that journey?
Okay, first thing I'm grateful for is we never took money from outside investors. So we
Mm.
started with a $40,000 initial investment from one of the founders, and we ended up paying that back within, I think, the first 3 years of the company. As a owner and the three founders, we didn't take a salary for the first 2 years. So we ended up paying out our employees before us. We worked second jobs to basically make our income at that time. So that gave us clean books, gave us clean kind of foundation to start with, good credibility with other companies, and just growth overall. So that would be some of my key highlights, at least on a starting foundation point. And starting wise, I mean, I ran a case study with my college baseball team and took us to the World Series my senior year as being kind of our nutritionist and guide, helping manage, the athletes on their recovery journeys and how to help them kind of perform better. And with that social proof and validation, I knew I kind of had a company and something to apply out. It was just how to go to market, try to be very cost effective with online advertising. And I think the first year we ended up generating a little over $100,000 in sales, and we really leaned into like symptom based approaches of are you feeling this bad, then maybe this is a potential solution if other things have failed you or haven't necessarily worked. And with that good feedback, we got some critiques about the testing and the results and which items we should do. And then with that feedback, we said, well, let's go meet our customers. And we went out to trade shows all around the US. And for the next 3 years, we were kind of boots on the ground, really setting up at every trade show event that were maybe like gluten-free industry. That was kind of like a fad at that time. We
Hmm.
went to some like nutrition, LA Fit type expos. And at those events is where we then introduced our pet market. The people were like, yeah, you can test us, but like, what about my dog? And that kind of opened up and gave us a catalyst of not just looking at human testing, but the entire pet industry. And I mean, 1% of the pet industry is $100 million. So we just understood that there's less regulation in the realm. We do know that, with birth rates and with expenses and inflation, people are having less and less kids now. So people are treating dogs more like their kids. So we knew that that was kind of a market that we wanted to lean into. I think the first year, oh, well, yeah, first year we hit six figures, I guess. And then after that, I think it was like 450,000. Then we were like 1.3 million. And then we got to like 3.4. I think it was like 5.7. And then I don't know, last year we were like right at 7. And this year we've already cleared 8. So we're on trajectory to hit 10. And the scale of it, I mean, has been mainly through online advertising and successful campaigns and content creation and finding ways to build out those platforms to scale. We've done retail distributions through, like we did a Black Friday promotion in store through every retail location, Petco's all around the US. So we went through all chains. That was a
Okay.
big deal. But it, actually wasn't all that profitable. And we learned that once again, this product needs a little bit layer of explanation, and a lot of the individual store owners didn't take the time and to really nurture that kind of relationship that was required to get the full understanding of the product. So for us as a company, we decided to kind of cut retail distribution, and we started mainly just with mom and pop shops that we can kind of do webinars with to really explain the product and allow them to kind of be the heroes, because this product, it expands their recommendations. Like a retailer struggles recommending good pet food for pet parents that come in. What differentiates them from going on Chewy and buying pet food on Chewy? Well, it's speaking to the people at the stores, and they have to really be these experts. But you don't necessarily know what food to recommend because you know nothing about this dog, and they walked in the store a few minutes ago. So to slow down and get a full picture of who this pet is, how they're currently responding, take this test, get some insights, and make a true guided recommendation, so the pet parent actually sees a healthy pet and comes back into the store, and you get to nurture that sequence. We do the same thing with personalized trainers. When you onboard clients, this is a perfect product for you to get a full oversight of how somebody is. So yeah, that's been a little bit, and it's just been slow, steady, and success stories one by one. If we can change your life, you're going to go tell people, I promise.
Yeah, no, and I love the approach that you guys took in going through this and really trying different marketing techniques, because I know that my audience as network marketers are always like trying to try, look at different marketing things that are out there, right? And so for you, by understanding that it's really about the people who want to know what's going on with their own body, who want to know what's going on with their pet, right, is really the key. So it's not for the person. So I went through a marketing workshop about 7 years ago, and one of the activities we did in this workshop was we broke into groups, and we had to create a commercial for a pet food. I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
even kidding you. That's what they had us do. But each one of the groups had a different uh target market. So one of them was, dog owner,
Mhm.
right? They just called it dog owner. Second one was puppy parent, right?
Yep.
Third one was the dog aficionado, like a dog breeder, dog show, like they show dog and
Yep.
all of that, right? And the fourth one was puppy mill
Oh,
owner, right?
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we may
The
not agree with it,
spectrum, the full
but that's
spectrum.
right. And every one of those commercials was very different because they had different things. So we had to create we had to name the pet food according to that. And so I think it sounds like you've done that. You've identified your tribe as especially when it comes to on the pet side of it, the puppy parent, the dog aficionado, somewhere in there, the fur parent. It sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to be, well, okay. One of my favorite cliche quotes is you either invest in your health now or you pay for it later. Okay. So it's a
Mm,
very controversial thing for a lot of people because they might cheap on their groceries or might cheap on self-care right now, but when they retire and take out all this money, they end up spending all of it just to try to stay alive. So there's a fine balance there of what does a healthy you look like today?
hmm
What choices can you do to be 1% better, at least move in a better direction? And that to me is a state of mind. I kind of have a thought of the sun keeps coming up and down whether you want it to or not. The earth's going to keep revolving, so you can't necessarily stay the same, which means you have a daily choice and an intent to be better or be worse. And it's okay because not every day can you be better, and a lot of us really traumatize ourselves and, beat ourselves up when we have a bad day and we get worse. But it's about, coming back and chipping away at getting better and mainly having more better days than worse days. So I just share that to go, somebody that invests in this type of test or wants to speak about this test really just has to be in that type of mindset, at least in a self-discovery place, or, as a pet parent, it's wanting to kind of give your pet a voice and just wanting them to live a longer and,
Oh,
happier kind of life, because they can't speak. They can't tell you how they feel about the food that you're feeding them or the bed that they're sleeping in.
yeah, no, okay. Two things came up for me in that. So, first of all, on this test being the voice for your parent, for your pet. Oh my gosh, that is freaking brilliant. I love that because it's so true. Like, especially for people who are really attached to their dog, their cat, I don't know how many other animals you can test with your test, but I'm assuming if it's got fur or hair, they can be tested, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. So they have that attachment and they feel like they know what their animal needs. They feel like they have a connection, or they feel like they know what their animal is saying to them. But unless you're a pet psychic, probably not. And
Hey,
even the pet psychics don't
you
know.
wouldn't believe how many pet parents go, well, I know what my dog is having an issue with. And I'm like, how do you know? I just would love to, like, and once again, this is a energy-based kind of testing company.
Mhm.
Like, I really have empathy and compassion for those people, but I also sometimes hear where their backing or information or validation comes from. And sometimes it's just, a guess. It really is. It's an
Yeah.
educated guess. And I'm going, if you took this test, that means that you kind of didn't know what it was because it wasn't working. So you literally had to take this with the intent of kind of asking for help and needing some additional support. So be
Right.
open to integrating in that change and trying it, give it a try. It can't be
Yeah.
worse than where you started, I promise.
Absolutely. And it's always better to know your baseline. I mean, that's what I do with a lot of my coaching clients is we have to start by knowing where that person is, right? Like
Yep.
I can't just go based on where they say they are. I'm like, show me your numbers. Like, what are your sales? How many
Yeah.
parties are you having? How many people how large is your team? How many people are you bringing in? How many people are they bringing in? Like, I need to know numbers. I've got to know the baseline to know, okay, where are we starting? To know, okay, so now what's realistic? Where's the vision going to be? Right. But going back to what you said before, the second thing that came up for me was we're all trying to be 1% better, right? Each and every
Mm.
day. But sometimes we have those bad days. And I saw this really great meme on social media the other day, which was taking a step backwards doesn't mean that you're going in the wrong direction. It just
Mm.
means that you're dancing and it's just a part of the dance. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's so good because
Yeah.
because when you are dancing, if you're dancing a waltz or a whatever, a tango, whatever, and you take a step backward, it doesn't mean that you just failed the dance. Like, no, it's part of the dance. It's part of the journey,
Love
right?
it.
I
Love
was
it.
like, oh, that is freaking huge. That was like, yes.
I gotta go in on that one too. There's a philosopher that I've listened to for a while, and Alan Watts, and he says once again, there's no such thing as a straight line. Like, we kind of invented the straight line, but when you really look at the grains of a line, it's wiggly. So everything
Yeah.
in life is wiggling. So it's not. So many business owners think it's a started my business and we're going to go straight uphill, and like you said, it's kind of this dance and it's this wiggle and it's this side to side movement versus kind of like a, up and down. And this is something that, I speak to my partner about. It's like we kind of move left and right. It's not really
Hmm.
an up and down. It's like a just, where do we need to kind of move, but we are still on that same path. And I think a lot of people, just from childhood, traumas and whatever it is, think that they, kind of have that dog eat dog, got to get on top and somebody's going to, be ahead of me in my class. So I got to be number one. Like, that's really rooted into a lot of us. So, it's hard to imagine a society where we can all win, we can all kind of dance together. But at one point in time, we were all telling stories, dancing around fires and having good feasts together.
Right, exactly. And I mean, if you think about it, a flash mob, everyone gets to win on that one, right? So, and that's
Yes,
a
that is
bunch
true.
of people dancing together, right? I think it's so funny because as you and I are talking now, my cat, it's almost like he knows that we're talking about animals and he had to come make an appearance.
Love it.
So if you saw
Absolutely
me
love it.
petting my brick wall here because of my virtual background, there's actually a cat in there.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think it's really such a cool experience to take a look at because there's a lot of network marketers out there who have a vision for a 6-figure business or a 7-figure business, and they're just trying to figure out what that looks like. And so I really appreciate you coming in and sharing what your experience has been like, because right now your company doesn't have a network marketing
Right.
bent to it, division to it, but that could be coming in the future. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, y'all. Because you and I had the conversation that could be the next step for scaling your business. So taking it from, you said, you're on track to do, 10 million this year, to be able to, get the word out. And especially since yours is an education based type of product, who better to go do the education than a whole field of representatives who are passionate about either human health, pet health, or
Or
both.
both.
Right. So having people who can go out and just spread the word in that way could be another way to build and grow and get this out in front of the people and the pets who need it.
I want to lean into that as well, because it goes back to like, why did I kind of start this? It's like there's so many people that you could sell insurance. I guess you could sell like cars. You could, find some thing to kind of put out there. But what better truly gift to give somebody than insights on how to live longer and happier? Like, if you can truly provide a tool and an access point to that, I mean, that's true impact. And imagine that relationship dynamic as a network marketer. Like, relationships are everything. So especially giving somebody a internal experience that then affects and impacts their external reality, that's really big for people, especially as visionaries leaning into the future, trying to think about, what 5 years down the road your life's going to look like. Well, you got to be healthy no matter what 5 years down the road. And if you can find a product type service basis that gets you there as well, man, I don't see how you can't find success in that and add that to your utility belt of conversations when you're speaking with people.
Right. And just, already my brain is going a million marketing miles a minute because that's kind of what I do, is already thinking, okay, so if somebody were to do this, how do you get this in front of more people? Oh, well, you go talk to chiropractors who are going to want to know this. You're going to go talk to personal trainers who are going to want to present this as an option. You're going to go talk to nutritionists who may not already be doing some sort of testing. You're going to go to like so many different people to go talk to who
Yeah.
have your ideal client. Like, you don't have to know a ton of people. And that's what I want to stress. It doesn't matter what your product is. You don't have to have all of that ideal client in your network yet. What you do need to do is go find the people who are already serving those people in another way. So, on the pet side, how many vets are offering that testing service? On the pet side, how many groomers have that in their shop?
Got to talk about groomers, because groomers get blamed for their products sometimes being the issues. But our test can actually tell people that there's certain things that the pet parent is doing, and, kind of equips the groomers with hey, it's not my fault. I'm just the one identifying the issues and letting you know that maybe this test can help figure out what the problem is at home, because I'm not the issue. And I just had to say that because groomers, like, that's a whole industry. And I used to have a family member that used to be in the grooming industry. And like I said, she'd get like yelled at by, handing back a dog and like a hot spot being revealed on the dog. And person's like, well, they didn't have that before. And they're like, I was just cutting its hair and like it was already there, but they get blamed for it. So it's like equipping people or providers with tools. And no matter what the industry is, to go, look, like, I'm here to try to help you. You don't have the answers. Like, let's do this together. It's really a journey together. Our mission statement is healing humanity together, because it does take all of us to really move the needle, even if it is 1%.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I feel like I could keep talking about all of this with you forever and ever, amen. But you have things to do as the CEO of a company. I have things to do as the host of a podcast and coach and trainer and all the things. So I think this is really fantastic. So, it's given some good insight for the audience to be able to think how they should be thinking about their ideal client, how they should be thinking about their marketing techniques, how they should be thinking about maybe even their own health, and looking into that if they don't have a way to do that. So if they're interested in learning more about your company and the products that you guys offer for people and for pets, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so we have kind of like an affiliate onboarding route if you're wanting to like reach out to just our social media team and go through our Instagram platform. It's just 5strands with the underscore at the end, or just reach out on our website, 5strands.com, and send us a message on the contact us, and we'll be able to kind of see what your setup is. I mean, there's plenty of different options, and if you want to have a conversation or try to schedule something with me, then say you heard it on the Badass Direct Sales Mastery podcast, and let's have a conversation.
Absolutely. So make sure when you reach out, whether it's through Instagram, whether it's through their website, make sure you drop that you heard Austin here on this podcast. So that way he knows, oh yeah, that's the conversation I want to be having because they heard this conversation. So Austin, thank you again for sharing your experience, your nuggets of wisdom here with our audience. I so appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Hope to be on again soon.
Oh, me too. Fingers crossed. And Badass Crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.